All right, thanks, Jennifer. Well, Cheryl, Georgia elections have been postponed and impacted in other big ways by COVID-19.
There are more absentee paper ballots. There are fewer precincts. There's also been some misinformation and mistakes from state officials. 11 Alive's Doug Richards joins us in Fulton County. Doug, there's a lot for voters to sort through this year.
Well, this is, we want to introduce you to Sandy Springs Christian Church. Normally, it would function as a polling place during elections. It will not do so during the spring primary that's coming up less than a month from now. And it is one of 38 places just in Fulton County, polling places that will not function as polling places because of issues involving the coronavirus pandemic. Southwest Atlanta's Dunbar Neighborhood Center won't be a polling precinct this spring because of COVID-19 social distancing concerns, according to Fulton County Elections. Abernathy Towers, a senior center that normally doubles as a voting precinct, won't be a precinct this spring due to senior COVID-19 safety. They are among 38 Fulton precincts that will need to temporarily close for the June primary. Voters who normally vote there who wait until June 9th to vote will have to switch to other precincts, most of them more than a mile away. And the inconvenience likely won't be the only issue, says election activist Ronnie Martin.
But the fewer polling sites you have, the longer the lines are going to be, the more likely people are going to have to stand around other people for extended periods of time.
Voters have the option of early voting starting next week or using absentee ballots. The Secretary of State is sending absentee ballot applications to every voter in the state, and more than 1 million have applied. But the absentee ballots also have issues. The inner envelope required by state law to ensure ballot secrecy has been replaced with a folded sleeve due to an error with a contractor.
In light of the coronavirus pandemic,
and the primary date on the absentee ballot is incorrect. The Secretary of State has spent more than $1 million on TV ads reminding voters that the primary date has changed
for the June 9th primary.
And officials think it has worked.
And with the success of the program so far, with over 200,000 people having already voted and 1.15 million ballots out the door, we get a feeling most of these things are going to be voted and they're going to be voted just fine.
It's a mess. Total mess.
Ronnie Martin is among the people who have filed in federal court for a temporary restraining order asking a judge to order the state of Georgia to delay this upcoming primary yet again so that the state will have time to correct the date and the instructions on these absentee ballots. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Doug.